First day out. I'm free. Yeah. What's up, my people? Run It Back Nation. It's been a minute, man. Thanks for coming back. We are live streaming right now on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Shout out to everybody. Yeah, my YouTube suspension. Well, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I am not the smartest person alive. I'm actually, if there was only two categories of like really smart people or really dumb people, I'm like the first stage of the really dumb people. Okay, here's what happened. Here's what happened. For those that don't know, I got suspended from live streaming on YouTube for a copyright strike. And the copyright strike lasts for 90 days. What I did not know is that the suspension was only for 14 days. And I only found it out because I tweeted YouTube support right now. Today. I tweeted YouTube support earlier today. The only reason I found this out, I tweeted YouTube support earlier today, and they were like, check out all the rules here. And I clicked on the link, and it said, if you get a live stream copyright strike, a suspension can be anywhere from 7 to 14 days. And I was like, what? Are you being serious right now? So basically, I thought I was suspended for 90 days. I tried to go live in the first like 2 or 3 days of the suspension, and then I just gave up because I thought it was 90 days. It was only 14 days. It could have only been 7 days. I don't know. I don't think I tried to go live after the first like 3 days. So maybe it was only 7, and I wasn't really suspended for more than a week. Oh my God. But it was either way, it was a nice break because I was tired of watching Sixers tank games anyway. It's very difficult to watch Sixers tank games. We all know that. There's nothing to really say while you're watching it. There's nothing to really say after it. So not going live for all of those games made me be a little bit more creative with the content and you know, put a little more effort into coming up with things to give my takes on, I guess. Something like that. Where did you get 90 from, though? Because the copyright strike lasts for 90 days. So the copyright strike is still on my channel. When I log in, copyright strike, boom, and it says like 68 days left. But I was not suspended for all of those days. I was only suspended for 7 to 14 days. But anyway, we built up a little bit of a Twitch following in the meantime, and I started multi-streaming on Twitter and Twitch and all that, so that's cool. And I think we're going to go back to playback TV for the NBA playoffs, you know, because I want to watch NBA playoff games. I'm not going to let the fact that the Sixers had maybe the worst season in the history of the franchise, I'm not going to let that stop me from having a good time on here. So I think I'm going to go to playback for the playoff games and multi-stream those over to YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, because when you multi-stream from playback TV, it puts a live scoreboard on the other platforms. The reason I got suspended is because I was live capturing the scoreboard off of NBC Sports Philly, and whoever owns that, Comcast, I guess. Actually, it's Comcast. Comcast has been, trying to ruin my life for most of my life, and it had something to do with Comcast somehow, some way. But anyway, there's the story on that. Imagine tanking your own channel. But look, we already got 102 live viewers back. So, you guys are real ones, man. Thanks for coming back through. And to get 100 live viewers that fast without even really being a game reaction or anything like that is pretty damn good. Shout out to Carlos Rosado with the $5 super chat. What's up, Carlos? If we can't get the kid from Rutgers, give me the center from Duke. We need to start thinking about the future because I would trade Embiid next season, in my opinion. Yeah, dude, the thing about it is, I want to start talking about the draft and what players we should draft and things like that, but there's still so much time until the draft, you know what I mean? And I can't talk about the who we should draft for the next 2.5 months. When's the NBA draft? When is the NBA draft 2025? The NBA draft, key dates for NBA season, NBA draft official ticket packages. What a terrible iPhone. Come on, bro. Next update, make the thing work, huh? How about that? What is it, 18 updates and still doesn't work? Anyway, yeah, the draft is in June, so we still got all of April and May that I have to make content out of nothing. I got 2 months ahead of me of making content out of thin fucking air. And then we'll be able to talk about the draft. So thanks for being here while I make content out of thin air, man. Lottery is in May. What day in May? We get the number 1 pick in May. Let's go. Cooper Flagg becomes a Philadelphia 76er officially in May. Lottery is May 12th. Draft is June 25th. Oh my God, that's the whole month of June. That's 3 months I have to make content out of thin air until there's actually something to talk about. I mean, I guess there will be something to talk about with the draft lottery. We will live stream the lottery. That'll be a good time on May 12th. But yeah, thanks for coming through. I was going to talk about something before I talk about the thing I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about this Paul George podcast thing. He kind of gave his opinion on Sixers fans ruining his podcast, basically. The podcast piece story is just so funny to me, man, and it's I laugh at the ridiculousness of the whole situation. But what I want to talk about first, I think, is the New Orleans Pelicans. We said, hold my beer. We said, here we come. We said, we're catching you. We were 3 games ahead of the New Orleans Pelicans, 3 games behind. I get confused on how to word it because behind or ahead is backwards when you're trying to chase the bottom. But either way, we were 3 games behind the Pelicans for the 4th worst record in the league, to jump up a couple percentage points in the lottery. And the New Orleans Pelicans won last night, even though I'm pretty sure last night they played without Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum. They won last night, even without these two, but today they officially rule out Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum for the rest of the season due to injuries. So they basically said, listen, we're trying to lose and we're accidentally winning. So let's not even take a chance of playing Zion or CJ for the rest of the season. The Sixers are on our heels. We can't afford to win another game. And so they shut down Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum to try their best to prevent the Sixers from catching them in the tank rankings. And there they are at 21-54. We are at 23-52, exactly 2 games behind. We need them to win. Wait, we're only 2 games behind? I thought we were 3 games behind. Did I do the math wrong? We're only 2 games behind. Oh, yeah. Because before last night, I said they need to lose 3, they need to win 3, and they won 1 last night. So now it's 2 games. Yeah, we are 2 games behind the New Orleans Pelicans for the 4th spot. And so we need them to win 2 more games. They rule Zion and CJ out for the season. And their next couple of upcoming games, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Bucks, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Bucks again. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe they beat the Bucks one time because the Bucks are playing without Dame and the Bucks are, falling apart quickly. Clippers and Lakers, I don't see that one happening. Brooklyn, they could beat just in a tank off. Brooklyn could win the tank off. It's possible. It's still possible that the Pelicans win 2 more games because they won last night with literally nobody playing. I mean, I read the video that I made this morning, I think. I read some of the names of those players they were playing, and it's pretty shocking that they won that game, but it was against the Wizards, I believe, so it doesn't really count. Yeah, we'll see, man, but the Pelicans try their best to prevent us from passing them in the tank rankings by ruling out Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum. Now, Paul George calls podcasting therapeutic. And somebody commented on my YouTube channel today and said, you need new content. All you talk about is Paul George. And I replied, that's because it's so much fun. I used to get the same thing from Ben Simmons stands. I used to get the same thing from James Harden stands. I'm in the drama business, and Paul George, he just delivers the drama, dude. Like it writes itself. It's very simple. I wake up in the morning, Paul George said something dumb, I make a video on it. Anyway, Paul George, had the podcast, right? The Sixers were terrible. He was terrible. Maybe one of the biggest disappointments in the history of signing a player for this team. And so it looked weird with, just absolutely looking washed on the court and then going and doing a podcast talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder or interviewing Reggie Jackson or whatever. And so once the 76ers, for whatever reason, the 76ers, as they got closer to being out of contention, I mean, most of the fan base knew that this team was cooked. And Paul George said, I'm going to stop the podcast to focus on winning a championship. And everybody was like, what is he talking about? And now we have a new quote on Paul George about kind of why he stopped the podcast and what he thinks about it. And he said, podcasting is therapeutic. When I started my podcast, I knew there was going to be some backlash. I knew there were going to be people that had things to say about it. He's an athlete. He should be in the gym 24 hours out of the day. But to be honest, it's therapeutic. It's a chance for me to talk about things that go on in sports that I probably otherwise would hold on to. When I started my podcast, I knew there was going to be some backlash. He's an athlete. He should be in the gym 24 hours out of the day. See, here's the problem everybody had with it, Paul George. You stunk on the court, which gives people the impression that you're not in the gym at all. You see what I'm saying? So then it looks like you're not working on your craft, and then you're going and spending time doing a podcast. See? If you come out and you're playing well, and you look like you're in really good shape and ready to go for the season, and you look like the best version of yourself, and then you're doing a podcast, nobody's going to say anything because they're not ready to get you have a negative take right away. When you look completely washed, everybody already wants to come at you. In Philly, anyway. You got away with it in LA because it's LA. Plus, it was the Clippers. That was probably the main problem with Paul George starting a podcast. He was playing for LA's B team. Nobody gives a fuck. You see what I'm saying? So you can start a podcast. Nobody cares. You came to Philly just for the money. Everybody knows it. And you tried to still do this podcast thing, and it's just not going to fly in Philly, dude. These fans are ruthless. These fans take this shit seriously. It's just flat out the wrong city to sign a max contract, stink up the joint, and then have a dumbass podcast going at the same time. Now, is it fair that certain players have a podcast and get attacked, and certain players have a podcast and don't get attacked? I think it's the expectations that come along with signing a max contract. You know what I mean? Because people will be like, Pat Bev has a podcast and he played in Philly and nobody cared that Patrick Beverly, was playing and was still doing a podcast. It's Patrick Beverly, bro. You know what I mean? Of course nobody cares because he wasn't on a max contract. The players, the fans didn't have an expectation of Patrick Beverly to be one of the players that's leading the team. When you're just a veteran, halfway retired, minimum signing, and you have a podcast, nobody's going to give a shit. If Kyle Lowry had a podcast right now, would anybody care? No. Sixers fans wouldn't be coming at, because it's, you know what I mean? You sign a max contract, the expectations that come along with it just is what it is. That's like a celebrity hip-hop artist complaining that he can't go anywhere without people wanting to sign autographs. That's the life you chose when you decided to do that. You signed the max. Responsibilities come along with that. People aren't going to like the fact that you have a podcast when you're stinking up the joint. Also, it's therapeutic. It's a chance for me to talk about things that go on in sports that this doesn't make any sense to me. What do you mean? You can't just talk about things with your friends without recording it into a microphone? You know what I mean? I talk about things with my friends all the time that's not recorded into a microphone. That doesn't make any sense. It's a chance for me to talk about things that go on in sports that I probably otherwise would hold on to. This is bullshit, basically, what this is. This is bullshit. This is a lie. This paragraph right here is a lie. The truth is, Paul George wants to be a podcaster after he's retired. That's his plan. He signs with the Sixers. It doesn't go well. Sixers fans tanked his podcast, bro. Go look at the dislike ratio on that show. Every single video had like thousands of dislikes, which hurts the product and the algorithm. That's why he stopped it. And then he came, I stopped doing it because I wanted to focus on winning a championship. Well, no, you didn't. You stopped it because somebody who runs the business or helps you run the business said, hey, you got to stop. This is hurting the podcast and the show, being on the Sixers and all this, and maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe Paul George will request a trade just to try to save his podcast. Maybe. What did this say, man? Subscribe now. Oh, subscribers only? Yeah, no thanks. Oh, I guess I got it anyway. Is this? No, that's a different story about a podcaster. Here's Micah Parsons. Yeah, this whole article is about athletes doing podcasts and how fans don't like it. Yeah, it is what it is. You signed up for it. What do you guys think? Will Paul George, let me ask you a question. Will Paul George relaunch the podcast while being a 76ers fan? Or has he stopped podcasting until he's no longer a Philadelphia 76er? Because Philadelphia fans absolutely attacked the comments of every single podcast episode that he put out. Is this a business decision to say, hey, I'm not going to try to get a podcast off the ground or run a podcast business while I'm in Philly because they're doing this to the algorithm? When can the Sixers trade PG? This offseason. Za said the Hawks want him. Yeah, the rumor, there was that at the trade deadline that the Hawks wanted him. We thought Daryl Morey was going to jump on that. It's Daryl Morey, man. What can you do? We watched it for how many years with Tobias Harris? We were like, yes, there's a team wants to take that contract. Trade him. And he didn't do it. And yeah, he didn't do it with Paul George at the trade deadline. Will he do it this offseason? I don't know. Maybe Paul George requests a trade this offseason. Or maybe, what's the likelihood of this? In the chat, what's the likelihood of this? Paul George, because I do want to be fair. Paul George looked pretty good in those 1.5 preseason games before he hyperextended the knee the first time. Remember that? That first preseason game, he looked really good. He looked really mobile. He looked really quick with the ball in his hands. He looked really good that first preseason game. I think I had a video about the Paul George effect. I jinxed him. Of course I did. And then he hyperextends the knee. And then he was out. And then he missed the first couple games of the season. Then he comes back, hyperextends the knee again. And then he looks washed the whole season. What's the likelihood of this? Paul George was actually not 100% the whole season. Y'all are going to start throwing tomatoes at me when I finish this sentence. Paul George was not healthy this whole season. And next season, he actually comes back healthy and plays like the player we thought we were getting when we signed him. One being very unlikely, 10 being very likely in the chat. You're too smart to believe that. Nope. We got a -10. Not a chance at all? You better drop some tomatoes in the chat. One crazy talk, Shane. What's up, Shane? Bucket Getter, what's up? What's up, everybody? Good to see you guys back, man. We got a bunch of ones in the chat. We got a 3, we got a 4, a 5. I think a 5 is probably as high as we're going to get on that one. Likelihood that the Sixers 25-26 season has Embiid, Paul, PJ? Did you mean PG? I don't think you meant PJ, right? Embiid, PG, Morey, and Nurse on the team. What's the likelihood the Sixers have next season have Embiid, Morey, Nurse, and Paul George? That's a great question. That is a great question. Again, I think that Josh Harris is going to make a business decision. I've said this a million times, but I'll say it every single show. I think Josh Harris is going to make a business decision because there's nothing left to sell to this fan base, right? The last couple years I felt like was the last straw, and they kept pulling something late, right before the season starts, something, fire the coach. Okay, we got a new coach, you know what I mean? Next season, okay, we traded James Harden or whatever, okay, Joel Embiid's healthy now, right? Joel Embiid every offseason. Joel Embiid lost weight. I fucking hate when people say that. Every year, Joel Embiid lost 30 pounds. Every year he lost 30 pounds. Still, comes in about 280 every single year. But every offseason, they've pulled off something to be able to sell this upcoming season. I am not seeing a single thing that this organization can use to sell to the fan base for this upcoming season without changing something major. So I think it has to be done. I think Josh Harris is going to make a business decision because the fan base is so desperate for at least something different. I do not think you can come back and say, okay, we're bringing back Daryl Morey, we're bringing back Nick Nurse, we're bringing back Joel Embiid on probably another ramp-up plan to hope that we can manage knee swelling the whole season, and we're bringing back Paul George. Nobody, dude, you're looking at $1 ticket sales right now. You're going to start the season with $1 ticket sales if you try to do that. So I think the likelihood of all four of those guys being back is a 1. I think it's a 1. And again, I know a lot of people are saying we need to trade Joel Embiid. I still don't see how that's possible. I don't see how that's possible. I just don't see how it's possible to trade Joel Embiid. I don't really see how it's possible to trade Paul George. But I do have this. Sportingnews.com. Don't know if that's, anything we should write home about. But this is an idea that somebody put out there on how the Sixers could trade Paul George. 76ers could swap Paul George for $195 million star forward in hopes of appeasing. See, that's what every move the 76ers make this offseason will be in hopes of appeasing Philly fan base this offseason. It's funny the clickbait title, $195 million star, so that you're like, who's that? I got to click to find out. Maybe I'll use that as the title for a clip of this video. But the $195 million star that he's talking about is Lauri Markkanen. And this is probably pretty damn unrealistic, but would be, I think, the perfect scenario. The perfect way. The best case scenario of getting out of the Paul George situation would be this. The Philadelphia 76ers have some work to do this summer in what's been an underwhelming season. The Sixers will have to regroup and assess their roster. It went from a potential contender to a lottery team in a short time. Although I thought they were a lottery team when they started the season 3-15. I thought they were a lottery team when they started 0-3. And getting back on track could require drastic measures if they want to make some changes. It could start with the draft. Sixers will likely have a top pick. If it lands in the top 6, they retain it. If it falls outside of that range, it goes to Oklahoma City. With this pick, Philadelphia could bring in young talent like Dylan Harper. By the way, as we get closer to the draft, I will be talking about some Dylan Harper, some Jeremiah Fears, some, what's his name, Edgecombe, a couple others, Ace Bailey and those guys, but some others. I really like Dylan Harper he's looking like an NBA player the more and more I watch highlights and clips of Dylan Harper. But anyway, that's if it lands in the top 6. On the other hand, if they really feel daring, they could trade that pick for an established player. Fansided's Matt John considered this in a deal as he proposed a deal where the Sixers receive Lauri Markkanen. I will say a top 5 pick in this draft might be the only way Danny Ainge trades Lauri Markkanen. You know what I mean? Because we've seen him refuse to trade Lauri Markkanen now for how long? And really, you're just sitting on Lauri Markkanen's prime and still not trying to win. It doesn't feel like the Jazz are trying to build around Lauri Markkanen. I'm not sure. But I would think if, after trading Rudy, after trading Donovan Mitchell, everybody thought they were going to trade Markkanen. They didn't trade Markkanen. I would think, a top 5 pick in this draft would probably get Danny Ainge to budge on Lauri Markkanen. And that's a way that you get out of, you attach Lauri Markkanen to Paul George, and both teams win, you say to the Jazz, we'll give you top 6 pick in the draft if you take Paul George. And they're like, we want the top 6 pick in the draft. We know we're not going to win for a while, so that next 3 years of his contract, we can just see it through, or we can see it for a year and try to trade him with 2 years left on the deal, whatever it is. It's not crazy unrealistic. Then the other side of it is, would I even want to trade a top 6 pick in this draft straight up for Lauri Markkanen right now? Because I think that the 76ers, without Joel Embiid healthy, and I hate to say it again, but I'm feeling like he's not gonna be healthy. I'm feeling like Joel Embiid's not gonna get back to that MVP status that we were used to, that made us a contender every year. Joel Embiid no longer being an MVP contender, I don't think the Sixers are going to be a contender for a couple years anyway. So I think you use that draft pick to draft another player for the future rather than trading for Lauri Markkanen, who's on a max contract, and still having a couple of years of trying to figure out this Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Quentin Grimes, Justin Edwards thing. And any other players you want to throw in there, Adem Bona, I guess. But yeah, I don't think the Sixers, that sucks to say, man, but I don't think the Sixers are going to be a championship contender anytime soon. I think you got to jump on a rebuild quickly. And I don't know if trading that top 6 pick for Lauri Markkanen, even though it does get you off of Paul George's contract, I don't know if trading that top 6 pick for Lauri Markkanen, who's 28 years old and is averaging 17 points a game right now. You know what I mean? That's the thing, too. Why does everybody act like Lauri Markkanen is a superstar? Why? Superstars do things. Superstars make things happen. You know what I'm saying? Superstars are Ja Morant, right? When the Grizzlies don't have Ja Morant, they're very bad. When they have Ja Morant, they're a contender out there. That's a superstar. That's the type of player that you trade for that max contract and throw whatever first round picks in you want. Lauri Markkanen, I just don't even feel like he's a game changer. I feel like he would have been perfect alongside a healthy Joel Embiid. But again, without healthy Joel Embiid for the future, I don't think Lauri Markkanen is a game changer. Am I being crazy by saying that? Great Bogus, what's up, man? We were talking in the Discord a little bit. Join the Discord if you haven't. Would you trade McCain for the 2nd pick in the draft? Absolutely not. Here's the thing, man. For the 2nd pick in the draft, no. No. The only player in this draft that's a bona fide NBA All-Star. I'm talking, dude, I know even that's a lot to say for someone who's 18 years old. I think Cooper Flagg is a borderline All-Star as a rookie in the NBA. I just see he's just a complete game. The size, the speed, the ball handle, but the confidence, the poise in big moments, the fourth quarter takeover, the every single time another team makes a run on Duke and it gets down to like 4 or 5 in the fourth quarter, he says, "Give me the ball. It's my time to shine." And he goes and makes it happen. Cooper Flagg is that guy. He really is. And whatever team gets him has an NBA superstar for the next 15 years. And that's just what I think about Cooper Flagg. I don't see anybody else in this draft that's at that level of potential right now to where you would say, I'm trading Jared McCain for that pick. You know what I'm saying? Because look what Jared, we can't just start throwing out players like they're nobody. Jared McCain, as a starter in a Sixers uniform, averaged 27 points per game as a rookie. He was shooting 40+% from three. Jared McCain was doing all-star level things as a rookie and wasn't even really getting the playing time, wasn't even really featured in the offense. It was, do you know what I'm saying? Do you know how good a player has to be as a rookie with no real game plan drawn up for him whatsoever to go out there and the coach says, hey, you're in for 10 minutes, and he goes out there and does that? He was creating his own system every time he touched the ball. Jared McCain was that good. It didn't matter how bad Nick Nurse's system was. It didn't matter anything. This kid dropped 35 and 10 against the Cleveland Cavaliers with nobody next to him in that game. That's a potential that I'm not trading for any. Jared McCain's potential is damn near Cooper Flagg's potential. Nah. I ain't trading Jared McCain for anything. And it's wild how much I hated the pick when we made the pick. Not because I hated Jared McCain, but just because I thought we were a contender that was trying to add a wing, and I thought Dalton Connect or somebody else was made more sense as a fit rather than a 6'2" guard when we already had Tyrese Maxey. That's the reason I hated the pick, for people that actually watched my reaction. But Jared McCain absolutely Jared McCain shocked the hell out of me this year. No, I'm not trading him for anything. But Dylan Harper looks like a stud too. And is 6'6", 220. The Sixers, the draft is going to be very interesting, man. The draft is going to be very interesting because it's hard to tell what the Sixers are going to do. You don't want to draft another guard, even though Dylan Harper does look like a guy that can, have the ball in his hands and control the offense and make something happen. But what do you do with McCain if you draft Dylan Harper? What do you do with Quentin Grimes if you draft Dylan Harper? You know what I mean? There's too many guards, man. If you're going to draft a guard, you would have to make a decision like that. And I hope to God Daryl Morey does not trade Jared McCain, because he might 10 years from now be breaking Steph Curry's records. And that would just be the most 76ers thing of all time. What else did I want to talk about? What's the score of that Celtics-Grizzlies game? Celtics are up 10 with 2 minutes left in the fourth. They're going to win that. I was hoping the Grizzlies could upset the Celtics because they started the game shooting so bad from three. And I wanted to be able to talk shit about the Celtics living and dying by the three-pointer. But it looks like they're going to pull that one out. So, yeah, my potential talking shit on the Celtics isn't working, even though they're still only shooting 30. Yeah, they got it up to 35% from three on 60 attempts. Ugh. Pisses me off. The Celtics just chuck 73s a game and it's working. I want it to fail. I want it to work against them. Hopefully in the playoffs it will. Oh yeah, the last thing. Speaking of Jared McCain, Nick Nurse made some comments on Quentin Grimes after last night's game. And I don't know, man. Quentin Grimes has shown he can score. The Sixers want to see if he's well-rounded enough to mesh long-term, okay? And you're like, all right, what the hell does that mean? Coach Nurse wants to try Grimes at point guard to see if he could be a backup in that role for the Sixers. What does that mean? This tells me that Nick Nurse still doesn't think that Jared McCain is a point guard. Am I crazy for thinking Jared McCain is more of a point guard than Tyrese Maxey? I watched him this season. I watched him run the pick and roll. I watched him run the offense. I watched him be a floor general. I watched him decide I'm going to attack the paint, or I'm going to get to a floater, or I'm going to get to a step back mid range, or sidestep off 1 foot off the glass, all the creative shit he was doing. But he was also reading the floor, and he would make the skip pass into the corner. He would hit the roll man. He would throw a lob. And then Nick Nurse would come out and be like, yeah, Lauri's coming back, so we'll probably play Jared at the 2 off the bench, and then, we might play him at the 1 sometimes. I'm like, you might play him at the 1 sometimes, dude? I thought Jared McCain was the only actual point guard on the whole team. I thought he should have been starting after the first 10 games of the season when you saw what he was capable of. But politics come into play, and Nick Nurse and Kyle Lowry, the relationship with you got to get. The first thing you got to do, Sixers, okay, before the draft, before anything, Paul George, Joel Embiid, you got to separate Kyle Lowry and Nick Nurse. You have to get that relationship out of here. That's like, a manager dating an employee, bro. And they get, of course they're playing favorites. They love each other. Anyway, this tells me that Nick Nurse still doesn't see Jared McCain as a point guard. And am I crazy? Am I crazy for thinking Jared McCain's like a point guard that should be being recognized as a point guard, and you should probably run the offense from the top of the key with the ball in his hands and run Tyrese Maxey off of screens in an Allen Iverson shooting guard role and take advantage of his quickness and his ability to get to the rim as fast as anyone in the league? What the hell are you talking about? You want to try Grimes at point guard to see if he could be a backup for the Sixers? How many backup point guards do you want, man? And they traded a 2026 pick swap for Jared Butler. We talk all the time about how Daryl Morey's done some good things. He's done some bad things. I don't understand the trade for Jared Butler thing. I thought Jared Butler was solid. But so you got Tyrese Maxey, Jared Butler, Jared McCain, and you want to see if Grimes can be a backup point guard. I'm just confused. I'm confused about it. And hopefully this doesn't mean that they are looking to trade Jared McCain. Because when Daryl Morey drafted him, I kind of thought that, because I was like, why the freak would we draft a 6'2 guard when we have Maxey? It doesn't make any sense. It's probably a trade piece. It's probably a trade piece. It's probably a trade piece. What if it is? What if Jared McCain is a trade piece? And then he came out this season and did what he did and shocked everybody. And now we see his potential. And Daryl Morey sticks to what he planned on doing when he traded it, when he drafted him, which is trading him. I wouldn't like that. The 6'5", 205-pounder is expected to attract suitors this summer as a restricted free agent. The whole thing's going to be interesting. Could Quentin Grimes? Could we trade Quentin Grimes? You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something with Maxey, McCain, and Grimes, man. Or McCain off the bench. But then I still don't see Grimes as a backup point guard. Just playing my game, Grimes said. Whatever opportunity presents itself, whether it be making plays on the ball, but if coach needs that shooting, defense, career, I can play on the ball, scoring, off the ball. Nick Nurse said something, too, that was about where he's playing. Grimes. There's another Nick Nurse quote in here somewhere. In his 4th season, 37% from 3. Is this Nurse? Here you go. Nick Nurse said, we're probably more interested in, can he play some point guard? I'd like to start him at the point here coming up in a little bit. I'd like to have him play it during the games, even if he doesn't start. I'm just curious. I mean, he's not a point guard, but can he be a serviceable backup possibility in the NBA as a backup point guard? Can he get us into the offense? Can he be a serviceable backup possibility in the NBA? I don't know. I don't understand Nick Nurse. I haven't really understood basically anything he's said all season, or his demeanor, or, how he's handled things, his comments on things. He just seems I thought we were getting a championship level coach, and we got a guy who just seems like he has no idea what he's doing. And it seems like he's just always throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. And has no real plan whatsoever. That's how I feel about it. I don't know how most people feel about Nick Nurse, but I just... There's no way McCain is getting traded. Morey isn't Nico Harris. I hope not. I hope not. Maxey isn't a point guard. He tries, but yeah, I agree with that. I think Maxey's a playmaking too. I think Maxey's, and I think that's what Maxey needs to be. You know, this whole Maxey point guard thing was started by Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers was trying to tell Tyrese Maxey he needs to be Rajon Rondo. He's not a point guard. You know, the Sixers had a very smart coach when Allen Iverson was drafted, and his name was Larry Brown. And Iverson was drafted as a point guard. And Larry Brown saw his scoring ability and said, no. Watch what happens when I have a facilitating point guard and I get this Allen Iverson kid coming around screens in the corner and getting downhill and cutting back door and rounding screens at the top and double screens. Like, he knew I can elevate. This kid can already score. What do you average, like 26 points per game as a rookie? This kid can already score. I'm taking him to the next level by taking the ball out of his hands. I don't think the Philadelphia 76ers have had a coach that understands that. I think that's what everybody should. I think that's what every coach should be doing with Tyrese Maxey. He keeps trying to experiment without knowing his personnel. If Nurse was that guy, why did the Raptors get rid of him? Sixers should have known better. They should have. The Raptors got rid of him. I mean, the narrative at the time was that the Raptors were about to be in rebuild mode, and Nick Nurse was a championship coach who wanted to win, and the Sixers were a contender, and so it looked like they went and got a championship coach who was going to take Joel Embiid past the second round. You know, whether it be the fact that Joel Embiid wasn't healthy or what it was, it did not work. It just didn't work. And I think the Sixers should be interested in moving off of Nick Nurse. And I think Nick Nurse is probably interested in getting out of here. Because the Joel Embiid thing looks like it's done. It doesn't look like the Sixers are going to be a championship contender. It looks like he's right back in the situation he was in Toronto. And everyone was yelling at him for not developing young players. And guess what they're yelling at him for in Philly? Not developing young players. How do we keep getting the same coach every year, man? Every year. Every year we get Doc Rivers with a mask on, man. Play-by-play with JJ. What's up, man? Hire the Grizzlies coach. I still haven't heard really why he got fired. All I heard was disagreement with the GM and they canned him. But then there's rumors that Ja Morant didn't like, whatever, didn't like the way he ran things, didn't like the offense. I mean, maybe it was a Giannis Budenholzer situation where you side with the superstar over the coach, even though the coach was winning. Interesting. I came across this today, and now it's an ongoing thing on the internet. And I don't know if this is the original poster, but here's where the debate came from. And you guys give me your opinion on it. Let's settle it now. Prime Harden or Prime D Wade? Y'all know what I'm going to say. This is an obvious answer. One player has multiple NBA championships. One player does not. One player averaged 35, 10, and 8 in an NBA Finals series at 24 years old. See, there's a problem with stuff like this, and I think this says look at this. We let the kids decide. Why are you asking the kids, man? They don't know anything about Dwayne Wade. They don't watch Dwayne Wade play. Dwayne Wade was so damn good as a young player. His first couple of years in the league, he was incredible. This was the LeBron James draft class. Dwayne Wade was still in the show those first couple of years. LeBron was still LeBron, but Dwayne Wade was a winning player. For whatever reason, Dwayne Wade, the way that he played the game, elevated everybody around him. He was just winning. And he even had a comment on it. Somebody asked him on a podcast about it. And he said, you know, I could have had more stats if I wasn't as interested in winning, you know, but 35, 10 and 8 in NBA final series to win a ring at 24 years old. I mean, come on. Yes. James Harden had an amazing run where he finished, had a 36 point per game season, which is insane, right? And he was unstoppable for a couple of years in Houston as an offensive one-on-one threat. And is as good as he is passing the ball, it was really hard to stop because you couldn't guard him. And if you brought a double, he was hitting the open man all the time. That's why he was a triple-double machine. You know, 50-point triple-doubles, 60-point triple-doubles. Does James Harden still have the only 60-point triple-double in history? Like, I'm not taking anything away from what James Harden was doing in those years. It was insane. A lot of it was getting to the free throw line. You know, they were calling a lot more obvious foul baiting stuff at that time than they are now. Now the sweep through is called on the floor and things like that. There was a lot of arm hooking and sweep throughs and all those types of things, and throwing the ball up and screaming and getting foul called. There was a lot of foul baiting. I'm not going to say there wasn't. But I don't want to take away from what James Harden was doing offensively. I watched it with my own eyes many, many times. He was completely unstoppable. I remember one time he had a 50-point triple-double against the Sixers, and Dario Saric was guarding him in the fourth quarter for some reason, like 3 possessions in a row, and the third time, Dario just threw his hands up. He's like, I don't know, bro. I step back. He hits it, you know. He's unstoppable. But there's a difference between a player that elevates a team to an NBA championship and a player that has a lot of awesome individual stats. Harden never got there. Harden didn't have Shaq. That's an argument too. But it's not like Shaq was in his prime when he was in Miami. He was in his 30s. You know? And in the 35, 10, and 8 in the final series, even the Eastern Conference Finals, he led the team in scoring 4 out of 6 games, 25, 32, 35, 31 at 24 years old? Nah. The answer to that is D. Wade. Of course, Aiden Laporta, we know what he's going to say. James Harden is a better playoff performer than Dwayne Wade. This is clickbait. And then he posts James Harden's stats in the playoffs. But numbers aren't everything, man. Numbers aren't everything, man. He knows this. He knows this. You're further proving my point that it's a team achievement to win a title. It doesn't prove who's a better basketball player. It's also funny how winning a ring ignores a guy missing the playoffs multiple times. He knows what he's doing. That's engagement farming 101. Anybody in the chat disagree with me here? Let me see, man. D-Wade was getting thrashed because he'd take it to the rack like AI, and that shortened his prime, but he's still got way more accomplished, retired with a game winner, too. He did. And it was a different time period, too. You know, players weren't shooting threes like that. Dwayne Wade, I don't think, was a great three-point shooter. How can the NBA get back to players attacking the rim that way? You know what I'm saying? I've said it before. When in the early 2000s, like, we used to be excited to watch an NBA All-Star game because we knew we were going to see a bunch of highlight dunks, and there was just so much of the NBA was high-flying athleticism, and dudes wanted to attack the rim. They wanted to go at the rim and catch a body. They wanted to do that. You know, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, all those guys. They wanted to do that. They didn't. It wasn't about this like stepping back and shooting 15 threes a game. It was like it was, and I know shooting more threes is more efficient or whatever analytically, but I don't even think it was about the numbers or the efficiency. I think players just did it like that. I don't want to say players had more pride, but it felt like bragging rights mattered more back then. You know what I mean? And then players started to manipulate the rules a little bit, figure out, hey, if I just instead of dunking on somebody, if I just get up under his arm a little bit, you know, and hook him like this, then it's technically a foul because I'm throwing the ball at the rim, so I get free throws out of it, you know. The game's not the same. It'll get back to it, though. I think everything is a balance. And everything comes in waves and everything comes full circle, but nah. You can't put Harden over Wade, not without winning. Wade played better defense as well. One of the best shot blocking shooting guards of all time. Bang! Yeah, that's a big part of it too that I didn't even bring up. Harden was known basically his whole career for not playing defense at all. Yeah. Miami and Golden State screwed things up small ball in the 2010s. What do you think it's going to get back to being physical? I see a lot of these college games I'm watching in the tournament are physical. You know what I mean? A lot of these college games, the team with the more size down low are winning the games. I think Duke's going to have a big problem with Houston. I think Houston has a lot of size that they're going to, and Duke has a lot of size too. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But yeah, maybe it swings back to the game being more physical and, bully ball being more of a thing. I think the NBA also needs to figure out a way to officiate the game more like they officiate it in college, because it's a lot more. Just watching a tournament, it's a lot more fun to watch. When a guy jumps straight up in the paint, right, and an offensive player jumps into him, they just flat out don't call it a foul. It's great. Even if it's marginal, even if the players move, even if the defenders will move, I think there's a little bit more of a leeway in college basketball, right? Same with like Olympic basketball. There's a little more leeway if the defender's moving a little bit. If it's a judgment call, they're just not calling it. In the NBA, if it's a judgment call, they're calling it a foul every single time. And I think that's the problem with the league right now. I think they need to get back to allowing more physicality. And especially if you're jumping away from the rim or just try, if your intention is to draw contact, just don't even call the foul. Hopefully in the next couple of seasons, we see a swing in the other direction. But yeah, that's my take on that. And I think that's all I have, man. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to do these streams a lot where I just, have a couple of things to talk about and come up and chop it up with you guys. Probably, I don't know, until next season starts, I guess, because the Sixers are done. Oh, yeah, we're going to go back to Playback TV for the NBA playoffs. So if you were a big fan of watching the games on Playback TV, make sure you have your account and your notifications on over there on Playback TV. If you're not on Playback TV, go to download the Playback TV app. Just search it in the App Store, download it, and go to Run It Back Philly on Playback TV and join us. And I'll be multi-streaming to YouTube and Twitter and Twitch too, so you can join me here also. But yeah, I think I'm going to do that too. And I'm free. I'm back on the YouTube streets. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for coming by. I'll talk to you soon.